So today we'll start with the we already covered that ADDS trust, right? We already covered the trust relationships, and now today we'll go for okay. So today topic is ADDS replication. You can say ADDS site and replication. Okay, fine. So if we talk about the replication, so what is replication? Actually, replication is a services. Okay, we'll talk about the replication. So what replication is a services. Okay, so you can say that when we create trust. Okay, when we create trust between two or more than between two or more than two domain networks. Okay, two or more than two domain networks. Okay, domain networks in the forest. The application services is automatically started. Okay, remember these things. So what happens is that replication is a services. Okay, when we create trust between two or more than two domain networks, between two domain controllers, as you can see that. So in the forest, replication services is automatically started. Okay, now what replication service do? Like imagine if I have any changes in the network. Okay, like what application service do, I'll let you know. This is the first point about replication. Number second point is that you can say that if any changes occurs on one domain on one domain a domain controller, one DC, as you can say, the domain controller. So that change then replicate to that change then replicates to all the domain controllers. Okay, in the domain, and you can say that, and all the domain controllers in the entire forest too, in the entire forest. Okay, so like imagine that so this is what application is. Like imagine that if I talk about a particular domain network. So this is my domain network, as you can see that this is one domain network I have. Okay, and in this domain network, imagine that I have three DCs working together. I have three DCs. It starts with DC1, then DC2, and then we have a DC3, like this. Okay, now if I have any changes in the DC1. Okay, so what happens in that case? DC1 tells about that changes to all the domain controllers. That means DC1 replicates all the changes to all the domain controllers in the domain network as well. Or if you have a forest. Okay, so imagine that if you have in your forest, if you have, like, imagine that this is my forest, as you can see that, like I have a complete forest. Okay, and in this forest, imagine forest means I have organization. Okay, so in that I have 100 DCs running in the forest, as you can see that. How many DCs? 100 DCs I have running in the forest. Okay, so if any changes, something changes in the DC1. Okay, so that changes are replicate to all the domain controllers in the entire forest too also. Okay, so if imagine I have 100 DCs, so that changes are replicate to all the 100 DCs in the entire forest. So that what we have replication. So replication is the services which is automatically started when we create when we create trust relationship. I hope you all of you both of you understand the trust relationship, because on the last lectures we talk about the trust relationship also. Okay, already. So trust, when we create the trust, when we create the trust, the logical link is created, and all the domain controllers start replicating. start replicating their database. Okay, if any changes occur, it replicate to the other DC, then that DC replicates to other DC, like this. Okay, fine. So if you have in forest, if you have 100 DCs, so all DCs has the information, has that changes information automatically. Okay, so that's what we have a replication. Okay, now if we talk about the replication, site and replication, so we need to understand one thing more in that is known as active directory, ADDS partitions. Okay, it's very important topic, need to understand these things carefully. So what is partitions? As you can say that partition is a, you can say that partition is a boundary. You can say that it's a kind of boundary, as you can say that. Okay, so you can say that partitions is what, it's a kind of boundary. What partitions do? So ADDS data, as you can see that data store contains information about, information uh, information contains information that ADDS distributes to all the domain controllers. Okay, throughout the forest. Okay, so whatever you can say that data, what is AD data store? We already talk about in very first to second class. Then that the data store is what, it's a kind of it's a kind of storage, as you can say, that provided by Active Directory domain services. Okay, and it contains the information about the ADDS infrastructure, like what we have, how many domain controllers we have, how many sites running we have. Okay, how many user accounts you have, how many computer accounts you have, how many objects you are running in the entire forest. Okay, so it contains that type of information, and that information distribute to all the domain controllers throughout the forest. Okay, fine. So these information are saved, as you can say that these are the information are saved in the partitions. Okay, so when you install Active Directory, like when you install AD in a on a particular server, that server is a, you can say that that server is a first domain controller. It means that I have a parent DC with me. Okay, so when I'm going to install parent DC, okay, these partitions, AD partitions are automatically installed. So what represents the AD partition? ADDS partitions, as you can say that, what is that? It's a AD partitions is a boundary, as you can say that, boundary of Active Directory domain services infrastructure. Okay, so we need to know that the whenever you can do anything in the Active Directory, whether we can create user accounts, computer accounts. Okay, we can going to create OUs, groups, we can apply the policies. Okay, we can create the domain controllers. All the things are same in the partitions, remember those things. It's a AD partition is a boundary of Active Directory domain services infrastructure. Okay, so now if we talk about the partitions, so we have four types of partitions. As you can see that we have how many types of partitions? We have ADDS partitions has four types. Okay, number one we can call as known as configuration partition. Okay, configuration partition. Now configuration partition is what, this partition, number one point, you can say that in this partition is created automatically. Automatically when you create the first domain controller, first DC in the forest. Okay, so it means when I'm going to create the parent DC, this partition is automatically created in the parent DC. Okay, fine. Domain controller in the forest, right? The first domain controller in the forest. Now what configuration partition contains? So I'll let you know what configuration partition contains. We'll go for second point. This partition contains information about information about the forest wide ADDS structure. Forest wide ADDS structure. Forest wide means it contains the information about all over the forest. Okay, all over the organization. Okay, so what kind of information? Like you can say that including you can say that which domain which domain domain network, as you can say, which domains and sites exist. Okay, like imagine how many domain networks we have. Like we have 3 domain networks, 4 domain networks. How many site we have in our forest which is exist. Okay, and you can say that, and which a domain controller exist in which site. Okay, like imagine that which site you can say that which domain controller exists in each domain, as you can say that which domain controller exists in each domain. Okay, like this. Like imagine if I have four sites. Now sites over there means site is the physical location, as you can say that. Like imagine in my company has 4 branches. Okay, so now in that case what happens, like if my company has 4 branches, okay, so it means I have a 4 sites. Okay, different sites. It means that, like imagine that inside my company has 4 branches, like starts with Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, Noida, like this. Okay, in Delhi how many domain controllers we have? Okay, in Chennai how many domain controllers we have? In Bangalore how many domain controllers we have? In Noida how many domain controllers we have? Okay, and which domain controller belongs to which site, like this. Okay, so this is what we have. So these all information contains by uh, um, partition, your configuration partition. Now next need to understand is that number third point is it contains the other things too, like uh, the configuration partition. You can say that configuration partition also stores the information such as a DHCP authorization. If in your organization, if you have a DHCP, so DHCP authorization, okay, information is there. And certificate templates, we'll talk about the certificate templates also, that we have a CA. Okay, in our servers we have a CA, certificate authority. Okay, so we can provide the certificates of our hardware, or our applications, to protect my hardware applications. Okay, so we have some kind of certifications too in our servers. And when I'm going to install the servers, some certificates are automatically created. And with the help of those certificates, I am able to you can say that protect my hardware, protect my applications, protect my websites. Okay, web pages, like this. Okay, so that's what we have as certificates. So I have a service named Active Directory Certification Services. With the help of that services, I'm able to manage the server certificates. Okay, I'm issue the certificate to the particular services. I revoke the certificate. Revoke means I stop the certificate which I issue. Okay, or I discard the certificate, like this. Okay, so we learn Active Directory domain services also, Active Directory certification services also, in upcoming lectures. So you need to understand that every certificate templates, DSCP authorization. Okay, like if you have a DSCP services. Okay, DSCP server is running in my organization, so that server is automatically means that server information saves in configuration partition. All able to understand, both of you, Sai, Teja and Teja, till now, right? Okay. Okay, so this is what we have, a configuration partition. Now next we need to understand is second partition is known as schema partition. Schema partition. Okay, now what schema partition do? Number one point, you can say that this partition contains contains, you can say that ADDS, ADDS object, ADS objects, attributes, and classes. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of attribute and classes? As you can say that attributes means like when I'm going to create the user account. So once I right click to the user account and go to properties. Okay. So in that case, that tabs, as you can say that tabs is known as classes. Like if I'm showing you, if I open my server and just log in this once. Now I can see that. Like if I go to this is my server, as you can see that this is the DC. This is the parent DC. I just log in with this DC now. I log in this DC. So password. Okay. Now you can see that if I open users and computers over there, go to run. The command is dsa.msc. This is the command to open user and computers. Okay. And if I'm going to access it, like if I go to abc.local, expand it, and we have the users option is there. So as you can see that right now I don't have any users right now because it's a fresh DC. Okay, so I just right click on the on this administrator user and go to properties. Okay, so as you can see that these all tabs, journal, address, account, profile, telephone, organization, these tabs is known as classes. Okay, these tabs is known as classes, and the information about every tab, like when I click on journal, they have the information about first name, last name, display name, description, office, telephone number, email address, web page. So these so this journal is known as class, and the information in the journal tab is known as attributes. Now first name is an attribute and journal is a class. Okay, understood. Fine. So schema partition contains this AD objects attributes. Okay, attributes and classes. Okay, fine. Number second point we need to understand is that number second point number second point schema information. Remember the six schema information replicates rep, replicates okay to all the domain controllers in the forest. Remember these things. Okay, so whatever information contains by schema, okay, it replicates to all over the forest. Okay, so it means that every domain controller has a read only copy of schema. Remember these things. Schema only works in your first parent DC. As you can say, first DC in the forest. So first DC in the forest is known as a parent DC. Okay, schema partition is automatically working. The first DC means parent DC. Okay, and every DC maintains the schema read only copy. When any update is there, the schema sends their read-only copy to all the domain controller. Updated read-only copy to all the domain controller in the forest. All the domain controllers in the forest. Okay. Remember, understood. Okay. Now, last thing we need to understand is schema is if we need to modify the schema. Modify the schema. We need if we need to modify the schema, we have schema admin admin group credentials. It means that if you want to modify the schema, okay, we can modify the schema too. Okay, so if you want to modify the schema, so you should have a you should be a schema admin. Okay, or you should be the part of schema admin. You can say that we have a schema admin group. So if some user want to modify the schema, I want to give the rights to some user to modify the schema. So what I need to do, I need to add that user on a schema admin group. Okay, and after that he able to modify the schema. Okay, now next we have third is domain partition. Okay, understood all of you? Schema partition, right? Both of you. Now we have a domain partition. So domain partition works in every domain. Number one. Okay, domain partition created every domain in the forest. Like if you have 5 domain networks, so we have 5 domain partitions working. Every domain has a domain partition. Okay. Number first point in that we need to understand is, if you talk about the domain partition, so you can say that when you create create a new domain, okay, ADDS automatically creates and replicates replicates the domain partition. Okay, so in short, every domain, when you're going to create the domain network, as you can say that, okay, so every domain replicates the domain partition to all the all the domains, all the domain controllers, replicate to domain partition to all the domain controllers. Remember these things. Okay, so it means that when you're going to create a new domain network, like imagine if I have 5 domain networks, so we have every domain network has unique domain partition. Okay, so if you have 5 domain networks, so we have 5 domain partition is there. Okay, now what this domain partition do? Now this domain partition, what it do? You can say that the domain partition contains the information about the domain partition contains information about, you can say that contains the information about domain specific objects. Domain specific objects. Now what is domain specific objects? Like user accounts, okay, and we have user accounts, you can say that groups, okay, computer accounts. So these are the domain specific objects. Okay, OUs, okay, OUs. So these are the domain specific objects. Okay, so it maintains all this information. So every domain partition maintains their user accounts, computer accounts, groups, OUs, all the information. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, so this is what we have. Fine, so this is what we have, the two things done by a domain partition. Okay, now next we have application partition. Application partition is the last partition. Okay, so application partition stores the application which works on AD. Okay, this partition stores the application which is working with Active Directory domain services. Okay, so whatever application, like you have DNS is works on, you can say that, like for example, like DNS. Okay, you can go for, so when we install Active Directory, so DNS is automatically there. So DNS is the application which saves in application partition. Okay, not only the DNS, like if you have like DNS zones also, DNS zones also saves in the application partition. Okay, if you're using, you can say that if you're using exchange servers means exchange server is known as a mail servers. Okay, so if I'm going to install mail servers in my organization, so in that case we can use that application saves in application partition. Excuse me. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, so now these applications are replicated with the Active Directory domain services. Okay, so if any changes in there in the application, so it's directly replicate with the AD database, and it saves the information about AD database too. Okay, like imagine if I have exchange servers, if I have DNS, if I have link servers. Okay, or we have other type of application we are using over there. So all these applications are work with AD, and it's replicate with AD2. Okay, understood, fine. So these are the four partitions we have. Okay, these partitions are automatically installed. We're not able to manually install these partitions. Okay, if you want to see these partitions, I'll showing you. Like if I open my PDC, okay, I have a component name is ADSI edit. So with the help of ADSI edit, I'm sorry, with the help of ADSI edit, I'm able to modify these partitions. Like if I go to, I first I close this AD user and computers. I don't need this. Okay, I go to start. Over there we have the option admin tools. Once you click on admin tools, over there we have the option ADSI edit. Okay. Now once I click on ADSI edit, okay, I just right click on that. We have the option connect to. Okay. Now once I click on connect to, in the setup, select a well-known naming context. Over there we can found, you can see that configuration is there, configuration partition is there, and schema partition is there. Okay, so once you click on, if you want to enter configuration partitions, click on configuration. Okay, and click on OK. So as you can see that I access my configuration partition like this. So you can see that. See, if I click on configuration, they're showing me all the things over there. Once you click on configuration, abc.local, okay, and you can see that everything is there. Display extended rights, forest updates, okay, whatever it contains. You can see that NTDS quotas, it contains partitions, it contains. Okay, so this is the information about partitions. You need a enterprise schema information is there in this. Okay, physical locations means sites information is there. If I have multiple sites, you click on sites. So right now we have our default site which is working by default. So one site is automatically created. That site is named as default first site name, which is automatically created. So by default your domain controllers are work under this default first site name. Okay, so they're showing me by default site is created over there. So they're showing me everything. Okay, with what is contained in the configuration partition. Now if I want to access my schema partitions, right click on that again, click on connect to again. Okay, and then go to down over there we have the option schema. Just click on schema and click on OK. Now you can see that this is a schema partition we have. Okay, and expand it over there. You need to expand it over there also. Now you can see that they're showing you attributes and classes. These are the classes we have. Account tab we have. Okay, account is a class, and account expires the attribute in that. So everything is there. As you can see that so many applications and attributes are running over there. So many, sorry, classes and attributes are running over there. So all the classes and attributes are running in this schema partition, as you can see that. Okay, as you can see how many attributes and classes are there. Okay, so if you know the know I think there is a one query run in the schema. if you know that query language, so you can modify the schema too. Okay, fine. So this is the way how we can access configuration partition and schema partition. Okay, fine. So I hope you're able to understand these all partitions, right? Both of you. Okay. Okay, great. Now we talk about the ADS replication. Okay. So I open, now we talk about the ADS replication. Right now we talk about only partitions. Now again we talk about the ADS replication. So already told you what is replication. Replication is a services which is running automatically when we can create the trust between the two domain controllers or two domain networks. Okay, so if any changes in the domain controller, okay, that changes replicate to all the domain controllers in the domain as well and the forest as well with the help of replication services. Okay, so now if we talk about the ADDS replication, so one replication is started. Okay, it has so many components. We talk about the ADS replication components, which components they provide me, or you can say how your AD replication works, as you can say that components. So what components you have? Number one is known as connection objects. Connection objects. Okay, now what is connection objects? Connection objects tells, or you can say that it makes the connection between the domain controllers. Like imagine I have 10 domain controllers in my domain network. Now when replication going to start, okay, first connection objects create the connection, that how replication occur, whether dc1 replicate to dc2 or dc3 or dc4 or dc5, like this, where your dc1 replicates to whether it's a dc2 or dc3 or dc4, like this. Okay, a domain controller that replicates changes from another domain controller is called replication. So we need so in connection objects, okay, number one we need to understand the replication partner. So you can say that a domain controller, a DC, okay, that replicates changes from another domain controller, okay, is called replication partner. Okay, so like imagine if DC1 replicate their changes to DC2, so DC1 replicated partner is DC2, like this. Okay, now what connection objects do? So connection objects what do? Connection objects links the replication partners. Okay, connection objects link the replication partners. Okay, so if I have two replication partners, DC1 sends the replication to DC2 and DC3 both. Okay, so it links that replication partner with the DC1. So if the partner is linked, in that case, then DC1 is able to send their application or sends their changes to DC1 and DC2 as well, DC2 and DC3 as well, like this. Okay, now second we have KCC. KCC. Okay, understand what is connection object, right? Both of you clear? Now we have, okay, good. Now we have KCC. KCC is known as knowledge consistency checker. Okay, so KCC has various work to do. Okay, number one, in replication, KCC is used to make the replication topology. Okay, KCC is used to create the replication topology. Replication topology means that we actually what happens in the servers or in the replication, that we're not able to create replication topology manually. Mean network design. Topology means design at how replicate starts. Whether DC1 sends a start application means start application send their changes to DC2, or DC2 go for DC3, or even or what is it, like imagine like this, like if you have this kind of network. Okay, in this network I have some DCs are working. Like imagine this is my this is DC1, this is DC2, this is DC3, as you can see that like this. Okay, now in this network I have three DC1, DC2, DC3. Okay, now when we can create the trust replication is going to start. First, KCC make the topology that how your application occur. Okay, whether DC1 sends their information changes to DC2, or you can say that DC1 starts application with DC3, like this. So who is the partner of DC1, like this? So first it creates, like imagine my topology is like this, like DC1 sends their updates to DC2, and DC2 sends their update to DC3, and again DC3 sends their update to DC1, like this. Like this is the topology I have. Imagine. Okay, so this topology is going to is created by KCC, like this. Okay, so the structure at how your application occur. Okay, it how your application works, as you can see that which topology that it use. Okay, so it goes to check with KCC. Okay, the KCC makes this topology. Okay, and now this topology is a two-way topology. Now two-way topology means let's say that at the same time DC1 also sends their updates to DC2, and DC1 also receive DC2 updates as well. It send updates and receive updates also. Okay, at the same time. So that is what we have, a two-way topology. So in replication we have a two-way topology. Okay, now in you can see that, understand this also, that on each domain controller on each domain controller a component of ADDS called KCC. KCC helps to and optimize the replication automatically between domain controllers within a site. Between domain controllers within a site. So the concept is that once, means you can say when you install the domain controller, so every domain controller KCC is working, and it's generate the application automatically between the DCs. Okay, so now you can see that like this. Every DC has a KCC. Like over there also we have a KCC. Over there also we have a KCC. Okay, over there KCC is also running. Okay, and over there also KCC is also running. So every DC has a KCC. Okay, and it maintains the topology, as you can say that. Okay, so now this KCC knows if DC3 wants to sends their updations, sends their updates. So where he goes, it goes first DC2, DC sends first DC1 and then DC2, like this. Now DC2 KCC knows if DC2 wants to send the updates, it go first to DC1 and then DC3, like this. Okay, so like this we have. Okay, now imagine that next point we need to understand in this also, like if any DC you can say that remove or not working. Okay, you can say that if any DC is not working. Okay, or if any changes in the in the like imagine that changes means, imagine that I remove one domain controller. Right now we have three domain controllers, but now we have two domain controllers only. Or you can say that right now we have three domain controllers, now we have five domain controllers. I can create two domain controllers more. Okay, so if you can see that if any changes in the topology, or if any changes in the infrastructure. Okay, if any changes, you can say that in the infrastructure, in the ADDS infra, infrastructure. So what happens in that case? KCC, in that case, you can say that in that case, KCC KCC regenerates the topology automatically. Regenerate the topology automatically. Okay, understood these things? Okay, fine. Now next component we have, this is what we have, the work of KCC. Okay, great. Now next we have notification. The third component is notification. Okay, so now you can say that when a change occur occurs on ADDS partition on a domain controller, on a domain controller. Okay, the domain controller queues the change for application to its partners. Okay, it means that if any changes in the domain controller, okay, it maintains that changes in the queue for its replication partner. Okay, now what notification do in that case? I'll just let you know. Like, imagine this is the first point we need to understand is. Now in the second point we need to understand is, like, the source server waits 15 seconds to notify its first replication partner of the change. Okay, understood. So it means that if my DC1 is source, so it waits a DC2 to notify this replication uh, you can say that if DC1 is my source, if DC1 is my source server, so it waits you can say it waits 15 seconds to notify a DC2 to this change. It waits for 50 seconds, 15 seconds, sorry. Okay, okay. So now what does notification do in that case? So notification is the process, as you can see, that is the process by which a source server informs the partner server that a change is available. Remember these things. Understood? Okay. It means that if first a DC1, if DC1 is my source server, so it first wait 15 seconds to inform the partner server. So that now I have a change now. I have some changes is there. So I have some changes available before you. Okay. So you need to access that changes. So I'll send you that changes like this. Okay, so notification is the process, or it's the services who inform the source partner, as you can say that. Okay, the source replicate partner. Okay, so it informs that, okay, now change is available, please access that change too. Okay, fine. So you can also you can also access that change and maintain that changes in the in your database. Okay, fine. Understood these things? Okay, so these are the three, as you can see, that connection objects, KCC, and notification. These are the major three services running in the application. Okay. Okay, understood these things. Fine. So this is what we have: Active Directory, ADDS partitions. Okay. So in this, we'll see what is ADDS partitions, how we can access ADDS partitions, and what is replication, and what other replication components we have: connection objects, KCC, and notification. Okay. Fine. So that's it for this session.